If you have your phone, I'm sure you do, could you please turn it off or mute it so that it does not interrupt the presentation. And if you have to take an urgent call, we would appreciate it if you could, just step out very quickly to take the call. So we've got lots of great events planned for today. And just a reminder that there will be Raptor Education Group that will be bringing in the birds, the raptors. They come in at about 10. They start the presentation at the gym. So this morning we've got several presentations from 9:30 to 10:30. We have birds up close and personal. From 11 to noon we've got shared spaces, creating bird-friendly communities. And the last but not least presentation is from 12:30 to 1:30, which is collaborative invasive species management, tips on identifying invasives and methods of control. So lots of great speakers lined up. So the first speaker today, I know him personally. Quite an okay guy, I guess. The first speaker is John Walch, my better half. He will be speaking about shared spaces. He will highlight how birds play a vital role in our environment and the delicate balance of ecosystems. Whether you're a seasoned birder, a nature enthusiast, or simply curious about the feathered friends that we share our world with, this program will offer new insights and deeper appreciation for the birds around us. John has combined his passion for nature and enthusiasm for photography into a profession. After working, and in many cases living in different countries throughout the world for many years, it was the allure of living in Wisconsin, small town Wisconsin, with its nature at his doorstep that brought him back to Algoma. Actually, I dragged him back. He won't admit. So go ahead, John.
Finally starting to reach Algoma. Just 45 minutes west of here, there's over 100,000 people in a parking lot hoping to see an eagle or a falcon or maybe an Arizona cardinal. Well, little do they know, we have a lot more birds here than they do. All right? So let's go for a little tour around Algoma, which you already saw. There you go. I was going to ask, how many did you recognize? At least the bald eagle we recognized. Did you recognize most of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So let's take a closer look. Let's slow things down a little bit and take a closer look at just exactly how important birds are, other than just being fun to watch. Birds play an important role in keeping our environmental healthy. Funny you should ask how. Welcome to the lakeshore in May. In May you call them mayflies. Every other month you call them lake flies, but we get them. But they're one of the main reasons why Algoma and the lakeshore are such a popular spot for the migrating birds. They've traveled a long way and they need to refuel when they get here. And out of the 53 warbler species that come to Wisconsin, or total, 35 of them come to Wisconsin, and they arrive hungry. The bay-breasted warbler is one of my favorite. The birds need to refuel, and protein is a good source. The bugs are a good source of protein. And some of them actually migrate and then stay. This pair of yellow warblers, I watched them for about a couple hours, and every 15 minutes, one would show up with one or the other would show up with about 10 or 15 bugs in its bill. Can you see how many there are? Wow. Incredible. So, and they do that about 8 to 10 hours a day for the 2 to 3 weeks that they're feeding their young. And you multiply that times the 93 million of them. That's a lot of bugs. Over 95% of all terrestrial bird species rely on insects at one stage or another during their life cycle. This is a pair of red-winged blackbirds. These two male adult woodpeckers are busy feeding their young. Look at the size of the bug in the red bellies. Huge. House wrens are also great bug catchers. And this pair was also very busy bringing bugs to their nest. The catbird's got it all figured out. He lets the spider catch the bugs, and then he eats the bugs out of the spider web, and then eats the spider. So, these little gold-crowned kinglets and ruby-crowned kinglets are right now just starting to move in, and they don't sit still. They're very, very active birds, extremely difficult to photograph, and it wasn't until I actually took this picture and put it on the computer that I noticed he was in there catching spiders. I thought he was eating mayflies. Even the gulls get into the action. Twice a year, about twice a year, there's a hatch over the lake that I'm assuming are dragonflies. It's a totally different insect than the mayflies, and you can see the swarm of them. But about sunset, twice a year, this hatch happens, and you can tell they're there because the seagulls are absolutely incredible chasing them down. Birds also help in spreading the seeds around. They carry the seeds in their beaks and claws and in digestive tracts, dropping them along their journey. This helps colonize new areas and expands the diversity of the woods. You follow that? That's really important because the diversity in the woods is what keeps the woods really healthy. If you end up with all ash trees, you end up with a dead woods. So right now, because of the problem we had with ash borer, it was a big problem. The birds are recolonizing it by carrying the seeds with them. We rely heavily on this. The red-eyed vireo is making sure that the shrub population along the riverbanks is staying healthy. For the life of me, I can't figure out how they named this bird. Remember we saw that red-bellied woodpecker with the big bug? Well, in the fall of the year now, he's making sure that the apple trees are staying repopulated. And you thought they only ate worms. In the spring of the year, when the ground is still frozen, the robins will a lot of times eat the fruit that's left on the trees from the previous year, the apple trees and the cherry trees, things like that. And that sugar, over the winter, fermented, and you'll see tipsy robins that drank too much wine when they ate. The horned lark, you can find these on the side of the road in the late winter and early spring. And they're actually a seed eater, and they will, you notice the little seed is not there?
Yep, I see it.
All right, thank you. Another bird that you'll see alongside of the road are the ring-necked pheasants. And they're there not so much eating the seeds as they are picking up the gravel on the side of the road to use in their crop to digest with. The goldfinch is a late summer nester, which means that they wait until the thistles and the milkweed actually go to seed, and then they take that seed and they build the little fluffy stuff, and they build their nest with that. So that's a good way to spread the seeds around. So what do blue jays and squirrels have in common? They both like acorns, and they both bury them, and then they forget where they buried them. So actually they're planting acorn trees for us. Mourning doves are really critical in this because they are year-round bird. They're here all the time, and they're a granivore, which means they only eat seeds, and they'll spread them all winter and spring, summer. Cardinals, everybody's favorite. They're not only beautiful, they have a beautiful song, and they spread seeds, again, year-round for us. These little bandits will take the seeds out of your feeders or anywhere, and then they'll stash them in the bark of the tree. And then it'll start to sprout and fall, and they spread the seeds that way. Same with this little cutie, huh? That, what he has in his mouth, I thought was originally that helicopter seed.
Yeah.
You know what it is? Yeah. It's actually, he dug that out of a pine cone, and it's a pine cone seed. And when he flew away, I watched him drop it. So,
Bald eagle.
that's it. Some birds specialize as nature's cleanup crew by consuming the dead and decaying carcasses and removing pathogens and toxins from the environment.
Yeah, bald eagles are meat eaters.
They are carnivores, like dinosaurs. And this is the juvenile, came in after, waited his turn, picked it almost clean, but then the seagulls came in and finished it up. Vultures are actually designed through evolution to be the best at eating decaying carcasses. And fishing community, Algoma, this is the beach near my house, and I was walking the beach and I noticed this fish came up on shore. Someone had caught it, must have just caught it, and it fell overboard or got thrown back or whatever, but it washed up, it looked like brand new. I mean, I wanted to take it home and eat it, it was that nice. But instead, I brought it up on the shore, and I brought my blind down, and I built my blind, and I was going to wait for the eagles to come. And I sat there the entire day, and who showed up? The vulture. The alewife floating on the surface and ending up on the shoreline used to be a huge problem. It's not as much anymore, but the birds are also cleaning them up, in addition to the trout and salmon that are out there. The birds do a pretty good job of cleaning these up. What happens is in the summer, when the water warms up, the oxygen level in the water goes down. Colder water can hold oxygen less than warm water. And the alewife are usually saltwater fish, so even though they're in fresh water, they need to have high oxygen levels in the water or they start to die. And this is why the birds just fly over and pick them up like crazy, which is really good. And this juvenile Bonaparte's gull had a hard time with it, even though it was dead. He picked it up, dropped it a few times, but finally got it. Birds will also tell you the wind direction. Not really. It landed on the weather vane. So I was at Marquette Park in Kewanee, right? Is that the name of the park? Marquette. And there's a monument there for Father Marquette. And I was hiding behind the Marquette monument, photographing this snowy owl, and it flew right up next to me and landed on the weather vane. So they also tell you what the speed limit is. They only fly 25 miles an hour, by the way. Birds are also excellent pollinators. We have hummingbirds that probably are our best pollinators, but we only have primarily one species of hummingbird that comes to Wisconsin, which is the ruby throat. This is the female ruby throat. Ecuador has 153 species of hummingbirds. So guess where we're going this fall. But they do a pretty good job. Hummingbirds only live in the Americas, North, South, and Central America, and the Caribbean. The indigo buntings also help pollinate by simply landing on the flowers. Along with many other birds like the sparrows, just landing on the flowers will help pollinate them. Birds also help balance the predator and prey ratio. So some years you'll see a lot of birds of prey, and the next year you'll see less of them. And it goes in cycles, and it follows the cycle of the prey. So one year you'll have a lot of rabbits or a lot of mice or a lot of voles. That means they had a good year. They can feed their chicks, and if they have 3 eggs, they can probably raise all 3 because they have a lot of food for it. But then they over-harvest the prey, and then the next year there's not as many, so then they'll end up the red-tailed hawk especially will have maybe only 2 chicks, and if there's not much food available, they will start with just 1 chick and maybe even kick the other one out of the nest because they can't feed it. So alien looking, isn't it? Red-tailed hawk chick. The Cooper's hawk eats small mammals and insects, but they keep this predator-prey ratio down, and they keep it balanced. The Merlin falcon is the smallest of the falcons. They eat snakes and mammals and lizards. Recognize the tree, Karen? You wouldn't often think of a merganser and waterfowl as helping to balance out nature.
I've seen one before.
But there's an invasive species in Lake Michigan that has now gone into all of our tributaries as well. It's the freshwater goby, the round-headed goby, and they don't have any predators to speak of, except the ducks, diving ducks, and kingfishers. But you can see that they're actually got these gobies, and the gobies are now, even though they're invasive, are actually starting to impact our fish we really like to keep around, the perch and and the bass and the rest of them, because they're quite aggressive, and their numbers are out competing for food and habitat. If we could only train the cormorants and pelicans to eat the gobies, huh?
Yeah.
This is the kingfisher with the goby as well, right off of Olson Park. There's another reason to support bird conservation: money. Birds contribute $279 billion to our economy. To put that into perspective, American anglers contribute $148 billion. Okay, so Matt's not here. I was just going to let the city know.
548.
And they create 1.4 million jobs. They also unite us by flying across borders to different countries and touching lives of different people throughout the United States, the world, South America, Central America. This one comes all the way from the tundra. Both the people in different countries all work together with a common goal. So, and they help us strengthen our mental health. Just watching these guys, you gotta put a smile on your face, doesn't it? So we talked about them being seed eaters and dispersing the seeds, eating bugs, cleaning up our garbage, and put it bluntly, they're just simply amazing. Their songs are also amazing. The chestnut-sided warbler, very unique. Just like their feathers, everybody's got a different song, everybody looks different. One of my favorites, the American redstart. The red-winged blackbird welcomes the spring. The males come here in the spring of the year, a couple of weeks, maybe even a month before the females. They mark their territory with their song every day, and wait for the females to show up. Here again, that's that yellow warbler. Interesting, when I walk out on my patio and I turn on my Merlin app and I see what birds are around, the yellow warbler is one of the first ones that comes up every spring. So they left in October and we went down to Panama, and I couldn't wait to get in the room, put all my gear away, walked out on the patio, turned on my app, and the first bird I picked up, yellow warbler. So they beat me there. Sadly, many bird species are in decline. And one of the major contributing factors for it is loss of habitat. Baltimore Oriole has 12 million in their population, declining. 8.1 million Cape May, declining. 6.1 million brown thrasher, in decline. Remember, all these birds are right around here. 77 million, the common yellowthroat, not so common. 78 million indigo bunting. All of these are in serious decline. Somebody mentioned they saw towhee today. There it is, 42 million, the American redstart, it's in decline. Rose-breasted grosbeak, male and female. So we maybe don't notice the decline because of the numbers of birds, 77 million of one species, so you lose a couple 100,000. Who would notice, right? It adds up over time, and so the main thing is that, wrong way. So the big question is, what would happen if all the birds disappeared? They're working towards that happening, but it's happening slowly. So what would happen if it was speeded up? What would happen if it happened, all the birds, and it happened in maybe 40 years? Ask Guam. There's a little island in the Indo-Pacific, 1,000 miles away from anybody else. It's part of the United States Protectorate, and it's like Jurassic Park. Perfect place for an experiment, right? Well, it wasn't an experiment. In the 1940s, a stowaway came aboard from a cargo ship, and the brown snake was not a native, an invasive species, loved birds, loves bird eggs, and in 40 years, the jungles went quiet. All of the birds are gone, and out of their the local economy went down. 8 of the 10 of their endemics alone, one of them was a broadbill, and the other one was a kingfisher, disappeared. So what we talked about is the birds went away, the jungles went to sleep, they started to die off, the insect population went up, people started getting dengue fever, and it was a huge problem for Guam. The handwriting's on the wall for it to happen to us. So we gotta watch what we're doing with our habitat. Don't let the loss of habitat become our brown bird. As a bird city, our mission is to make our community healthier for birds and people and protect our habitat. Okay? We're going to talk a lot more about this. The next 2 speakers will be talking a lot more about what a bird city is. It's not just a rubber stamp. All right, you've been a great audience. Thank you.
Have any room in your suitcase when you go to Ecuador?
Yeah, that's great.
What is your methodology for estimating the numbers of the birds and also the economic numbers you presented?
The economic numbers were given to me by the Bird City. Bird City started in Wisconsin, and they've done the numbers they did that research, so that's where those numbers came from. The bird counts are actually through eBird and all the rest of the scientists from all the different data that's brought in from the American Bird Conservancy through the university, I can't think of the name of it, but Audubon and all the rest of them
Cornell?
provide the information.
Cornell.
Cornell University is the one that's really doing that. So those numbers came from Cornell, and the economic numbers came from the Bird City. So Bird City, Wisconsin is headquartered down south, and now that's gone international. It's gone to Bird City International as well as the Bird City Network. And right after we booked our trip for Ecuador, they sent a note, because I'm on the board of directors for them, and said, we're opening up a Bird City in Colombia. Oh, would you like to come along? Sorry, I'm going to Ecuador. So I'm only repeating the numbers, but I'm pretty sure they're accurate.
Do you know how they determine those numbers?
I don't.
Oh,
How are the sandhill cranes doing?
Yeah, they're actually increasing, which is a good thing, I guess. You ask some of the farmers, maybe not. But, and it's interesting, I've never seen, and I've seen a lot of sandhill cranes and photographed them, I've never seen them eating crop. I've seen them eating insects, and I've actually seen them catch rats and muskrats and snakes. But you think it's a good thing, and but yet it seems to be a problem in, I don't know, Texas especially, I think. So they're opening a season on them. They say it's the ribeye of the air.
sky.
I wanted to ask about the brown snake
Uh-huh.
in Guam. Since the birds all disappeared because of them, did they also die out?
No, they still have a huge problem. They're starting to work on it. It's been since 1940 that they discovered it, and it wasn't until almost the 80s before they started doing something about it. They got all kinds of traps, and they lived up in the telephone poles and caused electrical outlets, burn out. I mean, it's a huge, huge problem. Kids were dying of dengue fever. They started bringing back a few of the birds, but because it's in the middle of the Indo-Pacific, there's no birds flying in and out. They were their own little ecosystem. That's why they had so many endemic species, because they just evolved right there. And so they're catching the snakes, and they do have 2 or 3 of the lost endemics that were actually in a zoo someplace. So they're hoping to reintroduce those. But yeah, it's a real, we've been to Guam a couple of times, and it really impacted. So it was like, oh, so what if birds eat bugs and stuff like that? And then you find out really what it amounts to if they all disappeared quite quickly. You couldn't have done a better experiment. Not that you really wanted to do it, but it really brought the point home.
What does the snake live on if it doesn't have birds?
Yeah, well, eventually that's that prey, but there's no prey, so that eventually they're gonna run out of birds to eat. And the population will go down and they'll start producing less. And then they've got an awful lot of cages out for them as well. So they're starting to trap them out. But that snake also is in Papua New Guinea, which is where it came from. But because it has natural predators there, it stays in control. It's what happens when you bring in endemic, invasive species that we don't have any control over. Serious problem.
So on our own property, what would you say would be a few great things to plant that produce good seeds for birds?
Yeah, great question. One of our speakers, the third one today, is going to talk exactly about that, and the second one as well. Both speakers following me are going to talk about that. If you had to pick one, oak tree, they're free. Pick one up. They have them here. They produce the most of anything else. However, in my lifetime, if I plant that one, maybe I'll get an acorn. Maybe. Okay. So the best one, in my opinion, is the service berry tree. Serviceberry, yeah. But they're gonna talk about that, and I also think that the Lake Michigan Bird Observatory will give you a whole list as well. But, yeah, Serviceberry would be my number one choice, that if you wanna observe it, and long-term would be oaks.